Um, thank everybody. Thank everybody for taking time out today to attend this webinar on Ops Challenge. We want this webinar to be informal. We want to answer some questions that you guys may have. We'll go through some introductions of everybody and just what the events are. I guess the one thing to point out up front is we're excited to announce that Ops Challenge is moved to Water Jam. That'll be exciting to have a lot of people there in attendance. Introductions. You want to go to that slide? There we go. All right. So first person we're going to have is Tim Scott. Tim is 18 years at HRSD. He's the superintendent at James River. He has 6 years as a team member in competition, 5 years as a coach, and a year as a volunteer judge, and then a couple years as a national safety chair and 4 years as a national safety chair and a couple years as a vice chair. Then we'll have Lacey Burdett, 19 years at West Virginia Water Authority. Came involved in Ops Challenge as a competitor. Started in 2021 as a support role. Continues to trying to read this. It's 14 years. Has played a huge part in his career path from obtaining knowledge about wastewater treatment and developing all incredible working and water quality professionals throughout the industry. And then we'll have Pat Porto. He has 8 years at HRSD, currently serves as a inspector, interceptor inspector, 8 years involvement in Ops Challenge, 4 years as a competitor, 2 years as a coach, and 2 years as the chair of the Ops Challenge and subcommittee of EWA. And I'll turn it over to Pat, and he'll give a little bit of overview of some of the competitions.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. So, firstly, just kind of giving a broad overview of, for those that don't know, what actually is Ops Challenge. Now, I like to kind of explain it in kind of funny terms, but also on a serious note, as the wastewater Olympics. It's a very nice way of putting it because it kind of helps everyone understand the competition side of things. All of our events are timed and penalized. There's actually 5 different events we're going to kind of go over with the help from Tim and Lacey. And each event has its own characteristic that brings a part of wastewater treatment to competition. So as I said, everything is timed and penalized. These folks are trying to do these events as fast as humanly possible, but also as clean as possible to really drive home the message of professionalism and true ability to do essentially wastewater treatment the best. So with that being said, I will let Lacey kind of take over and explain a couple of the events.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. So the maintenance event, the overall purpose of that event is to evaluate the skills of a maintenance team in response to unanticipated issues at a sanitary pumping station. A gantry is utilized to remove a Vaughan submersible pump from a wet well, laid on the table, and rebuilt by the team, and then reinstalled back into the wet well. There is an electrical piece as well that involves a voltage check at the control panel to make sure that everything is working properly. There are a ton of moving parts to this event, which makes it very entertaining to watch and even more entertaining to participate in as well. You have to do everything in a safe manner, as Pat mentioned. And, any action determined to be unsafe is heavily penalized by the judges. You are working with a live control panel and pump in this event, so it has to work. So I think the judges, are, super heavy on safety, a lot of heavy penalties there. So as Pat mentioned, you want it to be clean, you want it to be smooth. And, everybody just do a really good job with that event. Moving on to the lab event, there's 2 different chemical analyses that are in that event. One is for orthophosphate and the other is for total residual chlorine. The challenge will utilize a lot of hot material and permachem as well. You use 2-stage and Tensat pipettes. I actually had to Google what Tensat meant. It's been a while since I've been in the lab. To help demonstrate the operator's understanding of determining dilution calculations and performing volumetric dilutions. Safety, of course, is a really big piece of this event as well. The accuracy of the pipetting, the pouring up the volumes, looking at the graduated cylinder, making sure the meniscus is correct. All of that is highly important to success in this event. My career started in the lab. I was a wet chemist for about 11 years. And you would think that I would do really, really well at this event. However, the judges are up close and personal. I mean, they're literally 2 to 3 feet away from you. And for whatever reason, I was still getting butterflies and still being very nervous, every time I participated in this event. However, bringing that knowledge back here to the plant in the lab, it really helped to make our DEQ and DCLS inspections go really well. So I was always appreciative of the practice and hard work that the team and I put into that one. And for my section here, process, before I turn it over to Tim, everyone's favorite event is the process control. Wayne, I'm sure you can appreciate that. This event is broken down into 2 parts. There's a handwritten exam that contains multiple choice, short math, and process scenario questions, and a computerized portion that utilizes the Hydromanus plant simulator to work through various process control situations encountered at a wastewater treatment plant. Both the handwritten and computerized sections are designed to test the process control skills of each team. You can use a non-programmable calculator and a pencil. No cell phones, no ABC formula sheets, none of that can be utilized. Um, of all the 5 events, though, the teams that are successful overall tend to do very, very well in process control. Uh, we participated for 2 or 3 years trying to make up for it through the maintenance event, through the safety event, collections event, but we struggled at process. So once we, finally got the ship turned around and started being, a successful team, we started doing really, really well in process control and studying hard and, just being one of the top teams in that event. So, as much as we all enjoy math and wastewater math and process control, this event truly helps teams, get to the top of that stage and collect those trophies. So, Tim, I'll turn it over to you for the safety and collections events.
All right. Well, thanks, Lacey. We'll start with safety. It's an event that I think is one of the best ones because I'm the event coordinator for it. So the simulation for the safety event is it starts on an elevated platform. So underneath the platform is the designated confined space where you have a worker that's found unconscious while working on a check valve repair. So the team will set up a tripod for retrieval. They'll test the atmosphere with a gas meter, go down and rescue the victim. Once the victim has been rescued and brought to the surface, they will complete the repair, return back to the surface of the elevated platform, and put everything away. So it's a loud event because you got a lot of slamming around on the top. Obviously, everybody's rushing around, so it's a fun one to watch. But it does bring in the elements of confined space entry and the gas meter and rescue into it for that event. And we'll leave the collections for last because this is typically the funnest to watch. It's one of the funnest to participate in. I competed against Lacey several years ago, and he might have been one of the funnest people to watch cut the hole saw I've ever seen. But in that event, the simulation is connecting a 4-inch lateral sewer to an 8-inch sewer line and replacing a section of 8-inch pipe. There's also been added the construction of Vitolic pipe tower, so it's a bunch of several small pieces and valves that will be assembled into a tower. And what makes this so exciting is you have people cutting the 8-inch pipe with hand saws and a bit and brace hole saw, which is obviously we don't typically use, but it is very fast. Teams are typically a minute and a half or under from start, so it's fast paced. It's like NASCAR crew, I think, is what it typically gets compared to. So yeah, that's the collections event. And again, the one thing with that is once you put it all together, it's pressure tested with water. And the last thing you want to see as a competitor is a drip out of that pipe because that could have just ruined your entire event. But it's a fun one to watch.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So, like I said, this is a lot of fun. Most people really enjoy watching this. Maybe not the process test as much as Lacey might think we do. Uh, but we could sit here, honestly, us three can sit here and talk about this stuff for a very long time. I have 2 videos that help kind of illustrate a little bit better with more in depth that kind of encompasses the whole picture of Ops Challenge and what it can bring to each individual person, what it can bring to utilities and facilities. So I believe both of these combined come out to be about 8 minutes. So we'll watch those now.
Hello everyone, my name is Pat Porter with HRSD. We are here at the return of the VWA, Virginia Water Environment Association Ops Challenge State event. This is our first returning year since before COVID. We're so grateful for all the teams that came and supported us. We are grateful to have the competition. This community that we have is amazing. The camaraderie we have with it is fantastic. Really looking forward to bringing this back next year. We really want to encourage other teams in the state and other teams across the nation. If you're thinking about this, it is an amazing opportunity to network, learn, build a family and a community, have fun in the process, and kind of get into that competitive edge that everyone has. We really enjoyed everything that happened here in this event. We can't thank you guys enough, and we're really looking forward to seeing more and more teams come out in the upcoming years to kind of help promote this and bring future light to other competitors and make this an even bigger community than what we already have.
My name is Lacey Burnett. I'm the wastewater operations manager for the Western Virginia Water Authority in Roanoke. And Ops Challenge carries a really close part of my heart. I've been a member of Ops since 2011, and it's just really been a substantial part of my career. Everybody who has competed with the West Virginia Water Authority's team from 2011 to 2020 is now a part of management, either a superintendent level or higher. And I really do think that, that just proves how valuable this can be to your utility and to the folks that can compete in this. It takes what we do as operators and takes it out of the background and really brings it to the forefront and puts it on this national, regional, state level stage for everybody to come and see. Because most folks don't realize what happens to their wastewater when they turn their sink off or when they finish taking a shower in the afternoons. So it really helps us to display that and show that it's a lot more complicated than folks may think.
I'm Tim Scott with HRSD, here with the Ops Challenge, bringing it back to VWA. Ops Challenge to me is a program, one of the greatest operator development programs that there is nationwide. Been very successful in VWA in our organization. And when I started, I had no clue what it was. But what it did for me, it allowed me to be able to adapt, work in a team environment. It created confidence, networking opportunities, and relationships that would last a lifetime. On top of that, now that I've done it for the last 16 years, and now I'm a coordinator, I get to give back to that, and I really sense a community. That sense of community gives me people that I can reach out to when I need help, have questions that need to be answered, and we continue to work together. On top of that, this program allows operators and frontline workers who normally work anonymously, day in and day out, who supply us clean water, to have a place to showcase their skills and come together and be recognized for all the talent and hard work that they do. Operations Challenge by far is one of the greatest programs I've ever been a part of, and I hope to continue to be a part of it for a long time in the future.
I'm Ron Moeller with WSSC Water in Maryland. We are the technicians. At the end of the day, we all want each other to succeed, and we celebrate each other's successes.
Hey, y'all, how y'all doing? This is DC Water. We here at VWEA 2023 Ops Challenge. Yes, it was a great, lovely experience. For me, this is my second competition, so it's actually giving me some, good rounds, good reps, so we could be better. This is Mike Temp. This is Don. This is Antoine. I'm Ron. I want to, thank you all for having us out. Like I said, it's a great opportunity for all utilities. I think it's, it'll be a great experience, something to teach your operators, your staff, your lab, maintenance. We do a little bit of everything, and it's fun. Don't forget that part. So we, like I said, we just want, we appreciate y'all having us, and we want to thank y'all for having us.
My name is Colby Gussie. I've been with HRSD for about 4 years now, and I've been on part of the operations teams for about 3 years. And the amount of leadership skills you can gain from this program is amazing. Like, you get so many different communities coming together and utilities, and you can value so much different aspects and things you can learn from other people. It's just really awesome.
My name is Billy Swearingen with Team HRSD. I feel that the competitiveness, the family vibes that you get from Ops Challenge is unmatched anywhere else that you go. Learned a lot. Coming from the department, I don't even working in treatment plants in my organization, so learning a lot of experiences with that is a great opportunity.
Lee Heath, HRSD. I think one of the best benefits of having the Ops Challenge within your state or your organization is the teamwork you get to put into it. The four of us get to come together from different parts of our organization. We work on a common goal to do the best we can in these events. It really shows like a good nature of what team building and what team building can do, and I think that helps with leadership and the future of building your organization.
Thank you guys again for being here. I really do think today was a great event. Appreciate all your patience as we kind of worked through a few things here and there, but what would Operations Challenge be without a few hiccups, right? And that's what we do as operators. We got to show up, and whatever's thrown at us, we got to figure it out. And we did that. So thank you to all the judges, thank you to all the committees, everybody that was here today to really make this event take off and be as successful as it was. And Midnight, just want to thank you again. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but a big round of applause again for Midnight. First place overall, the 2023 Virginia Water Environment Association Operations Challenge event at Midnight Brewery, the Mealy, the technicians.
All right. Seems like the video might have been a little choppy for everyone. Let me see if I can exit out of some tabs here.
It was okay for me, but it did look like a couple of people said it was choppy. So.
Yeah. Did try and set the settings for optimize for video, so hopefully it helps a little bit in the next one. Next one's a little bit shorter too, so that might help. We got one more here.
My name is Lacey Burnett. I'm the Wastewater Operations Manager for the Western Virginia Water Authority in Roanoke, Virginia. I was a long-time Operations Challenge competitor. Ops Challenge, to me, the benefits, there are so many. Networking potential, getting out with other teams that only can benefit you as a competitor, but also just throughout your career. You know, it takes what we do as wastewater operators and brings it to the light. You know, a lot of what we do is in anonymity. People don't realize how important it is to treat our wastewater and to get it, remove the pollutants and everything that we do to work hard to, really save our environment.
For me, what I've personally gained from Ops Challenge is a lot. Between education, communication, networking, education alone. Being at the plant that I was at, I wasn't able to experience everything that there's out there to learn. Ops Challenge gave me the opportunity to learn about the trickle filters, the lagoons, the holding ponds, different parts of SBRs, different processes that we have throughout the nation, throughout the world even. Things that I wouldn't have learned if I was at my plant alone. On top of that, the community. The community is amazing. Yes, everyone's wanting to compete, we're all wanting to do good and win, but at the same time, we also want to see everybody else do good too. And the better our competition can get, the better we can get from it. So the camaraderie of this community is insane. Everyone is so nice, everyone is so understanding of everything and so motivated to help you with your goals and dreams. That you really can't beat it. I mean, there's so much to this.
Hi, my name is A.J. Dickens. I work for HRSD. I'm on the current Operations Challenge team for HRSD, and I've learned a lot in our pipe cutting event. We replaced a couple pieces of pipe to simulate a burst pipe or a change that needs to be done. We do a maintenance event where I've learned how to change a volute on our pump in a scum well. I've learned all these things here because as a plant operator, I don't have a chance to work on a lot of maintenance jobs, but this has given me the confidence and the skills I can take toward my work center and help out wherever they see fit or wherever I can't help. Ops Challenge builds a great community and a great team. I get to compete against all my brothers and sisters of Ops Challenge, and they want to kick my butt as much as I want to kick their butt, but we always teach each other at the same time.
All right. So we have those two videos to kind of help explain what Ops Challenge is as a whole, what it might do for you and your utility or your employees or coworkers. But now we kind of want to open up the floor for some questions. We know a lot of people have a lot of questions about this stuff, and we want to kind of allow those folks to have a moment to express what they might want to know more about. This is Zoom, so if you feel free to raise your hand or speak out with the microphone or even in the chat if you have any questions. Not seeing any raised hands. Okay. We had a feeling this might happen, which is fine. We do have
I'll
some.
go ahead and throw out a first question there. So, I think even in one of the videos, I think it was Billy maybe that said that do you need to be an operator to compete in competitions?
Absolutely not. Billy Swearingen is actually in customer care at HRSD. He's not a part of operations at all. Colby Gussie is now in automotive, no longer in operations. Aaron Wheeler is in interceptors. He was in electrical. So no, you do not have to be an operator. I believe we got a question in the chat. Any advice?
Mike, kind of following up to that. I mean, our team, I was a lab tech. We had a SCADA integrator. We had one operator, then a maintenance worker on our team. So, I mean, honestly, the more well-rounded you are, perhaps the more successful you are because you're getting input from all different sides of it when it comes to all these events.
Yeah, exactly. I'd heard that question and frequently when we've been at like water jam and stuff like that, like, oh, well, you got to be an operator to compete. And I'm like, no, you don't. So it was just trying to get it formalized that you don't have to be an operator to compete in these contests.
Correct. You do have to be involved with wastewater, though. You can't pull one of your like water techs or something like that in there. So, I mean, that is at the basis of it.
And then we got a question from Rachel. Any advice on how to get sponsors? Tim, would you feel comfortable answering that one? I know you kind of deal with vendors a lot. Considering your position, you might have some advice.
That's a tough one. Some procurement laws could prevent some of that. So you have to be careful. I think some of that could go back to overall, I guess it depends what you're going to use sponsorship for. But I think you could work with your local vendors already. A lot of this stuff is discounted that we work out with the vendors ahead of time when these new events come out for the equipment. We try to some of this stuff too, just to outline that, like the safety event and the tripod for the retrieval system. A lot of utilities already use a similar tripod. We try to keep it within some realm of things that you might already have or have access to. But yeah, I will I know in other states, we just had this conversation recently that teams would go out and try to get their own sponsorships or raise their own money. And so I will tiptoe around that subject a little bit because we do get sponsors through VWA, and that will help maybe pay for teams for WEFTEC, and there's some things that could be explored there more. But for individual team sponsorships, I would just say I would work with your procurement on that to make sure you don't get yourself in any trouble, because we've had teams across the country that their procurement laws are different. They can reach out to a vendor and that vendor can give them $50,000 if they wanted to, and there's no problems. And in other states and other areas, that could be a big issue, and we don't want to create any of those.
I can add to the little bit. This is Kathy with BWEA. The sponsorship question. BWA does ask for sponsors for Ops Challenge. Some of the participants here will help us reach out, and that does help offset the cost of sending. We try to send 2 teams to WEFTEC, so that helps help us fund sending 2 teams, which is usually 4 participants and a coach, to WEFTEC per team. So, and right now we're not getting enough sponsors to be able to do a lot more than that at this time overall. If we were to increase the amount of sponsors we had, then that maybe would provide VWA the ability to support teams more with equipment needs and things like that. We're just not at that point just yet, if that helps at all.
Thanks, Kathy. So we got another question in the chat. How many people can be on a team?
So generally, the max number is 4. So most teams will try their best, and it's very rare that I've seen anything less than 4. I think one time I can think of that I've seen a team of 3, and that was because the fourth member had gotten very sick the day before and was unable to compete with them. I do believe there is something saying a minimum of 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim or Lacey, but most teams try to strive for that maximum 4.
Yeah, I think 4 compete. So once the start of any event, state, national, local, regional, once you start on the first event, you'll have 4 team members. That same 4 team members must compete throughout all 5 events. A lot of teams will carry a coach and an alternate with them. So a lot of times you see a group of 6 show up to the event. And sometimes, the team might go to more than one event, and, 4 people will do one event. The next time, maybe they'll swap a couple people out just to allow people some more experience.
Okay. Thanks, Tim and Pat. Another question. Did the teams get together and practice? And if so, how often?
Lacey, you want to take that one?
Sure. So, we always started practice probably in January with the Atlantic City event was kind of our kickoff, which was in May. And we would practice 2 times a week for 2 hours a day. And we based it, one of the operators on the team was on night shift. So we kind of based everything on his schedule. So we worked 7P to 7A, and we would start practice at 7:30 in the morning, go to 9:30. Once we got closer to an event, Atlantic City, Ocean City, state events, of course, and then WEF Tech especially, we would start practicing 4 to 5 days a week. And we got proficient enough to where we could hit all 5 events within that 2-hour period. Sometimes if we were struggling getting one particular piece of an event down well, we'd spend a little bit more time there. But generally, 2 practices a week to kind of get started, kind of get your feet wet, and then within about a month or so of a competition, we'd ramp it up to 3, and then 2 weeks, before we'd probably bump up to 4, just to make sure we're as prepared as we possibly could before the event.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Just got back last week from a New England event and talking to how they approach it. So they have teams that are made up of people from different states. So obviously they're not meeting together twice a week. They'll get together, once every 3 or 4 months, just so they can have this opportunity. We've talked to teams across the country that practice really frequently, and recently met a team of YPs that basically came together, saw it all work, then spent a day together, and then went and competed. Again, just to have some type of entry into being a part of the program.
We also see too, something to add to that is, especially at WEF Tech, a lot of teams that haven't had really hardly any practice. Some of them coming in for the first time and seeing and being able to put their hands on the equipment for the very first time and still do really good. It's really, really awesome to watch.
Yeah, and to piggyback on Tim, I mean, we were very fortunate. All of my team members were here at one facility, so it was really easy for us to interact and get to practice and just kind of bounce ideas off of one another. But to Tim's point, having a competitor from a different state, of course, that makes things pretty tough. However, the process event, the lab event, you could actually practice that like solo to some degree. I mean, process is just a matter of studying and just enhancing your knowledge of wastewater treatment. So you could do that from anywhere. Lab event, you kind of section it off pretty well. And if you have the proper equipment there, you could do that as well. So, I mean, you see a lot of teams, they're really good at, process, laboratory, and even maybe the collections event. Where the bigger event, safety and maintenance, that takes a lot more collaboration, a lot more just kind of, strategizing, make sure people are in the right places. So those events, tend to be a bit more efficient if you can get together a lot more practicing. But, the bottom line of Ops Challenge, it goes beyond the competition. I think that's the point we really want to drive home here is, the networking aspect, the knowledge aspect. Going and wanting to win and being competitive, that's, everybody wants to do that. However, there's just so many other positive things about Ops Challenge that are out there. We don't want the competition aspect to kind of get in the way of the success that you can have by just being a part of a team.
Lacey, I'll have a follow-up question for the benefit of the group too. So like I think you touched on there a little bit too. So do teams need to compete in all of the competitions, all of the contests?
Yes. Well, I guess you could not compete in one if you chose not to. But I think Tim mentioned earlier, so if the four people who start at the process event, they are the four that will do the remaining four events. So if you start with A, B, C, and D employee or operator or whoever, those four folks will continue on for the next four events.
Okay, that's good. I think that was a question in the chat as well too. Do the same four people have to compete in all of the 5 challenges?
We've had some teams, and Tim can allude to this as well, that have never seen the maintenance event a day in their life, and they come to compete. And, we encourage them to at least make an attempt. Now, the judges really help make sure that, everything is done safely. Allows them to run through the events prior to the competition, just to kind of familiarize themselves with, what they're going to be working with. So, there's a lot of opportunities to, kind of knock the rust off, or at least kind of get involved and see what you're going to be involved with before the competition starts. I think there is a time limit to each event. Maintenance used to be 20 minutes or 25 minutes. Tim, I think safety events has about the same time there. So they will cut you off at some point, but we highly encourage everybody to give every event a shot if you can.
Thanks, Lacey.
Yeah, I think I'll tell the story about that. The New Jersey competition, the actual one team that is in New Jersey right now did not run the lab event because they just got a team together less than a month ago and they haven't had any of the lab equipment. So it was the first time seeing it. So they chose not to run that event, which was fine. They still placed in a couple of the other events. Um, we don't want that to limit participation. But the coolest thing I think I've probably seen in my years is if you have a team showing up and they're not familiar, just about every other team is going to help them and coach them from the sideline. It happens every single time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Question in the chat: do the teams know in advance the 5 challenges will be in order to practice, or do they not know until the day of? So
So
you want to touch on that one, I guess?
Yeah. So speaking of the five events that are at each competition, we do know everything in advance. Caveat to that being the process test. We do know the generalized questionings for a section of the process test called the scenario section. We don't know specific questions that are going to be asked. That one's more of you just kind of have to know a good sum of everything. And at least personally, we used to always split it up to where one person would study for this section because generally this is the topics they would be going over. One person would study the plant simulator because generally the plant simulator is going to be pretty much the same. But in terms of all the other events, safety, maintenance, collections, lab, those are all constant throughout the year. If there is any changes or anything like that, everything will be addressed on the Rocky Mountain Water Environment Association website, which has all of the national event listings. And every 4 years, the event changes. So what that means is lab will change 1 year, safety will change the next, maintenance will change the next, collections will change the next, and then it'll start over again, and lab will change, so forth and so on. A lot of times the changes can be minimal. They will be very heavily addressed, and heavy attention will be given to those changes so that it is very aware throughout the community that those changes have been made. But throughout the year, we all know what's going on. We all know what's happening. Thank you, Lacey. He just dropped the link for the Rocky Mountain Water Environment Association website. That should have all of the listings for the national events. That is constant. That is what you can expect going into every event throughout the nation leading up to WEFTEC.
Thanks, Pat. So question in the comment, I guess David had that. Where can teams find the list of rules for the events? I guess that would be, is that on the Rocky Mount link as well too?
Yep.
Any other questions? Tim, maybe I think you touched on this. I'm trying to ask questions for people. What about team members? If you don't have enough members at your entity to form a team, what about joining with other team members from other localities?
Yeah, it's frequently done in other areas of the country. There's some all-star teams where um, you got teams from different states and they couldn't make it like when they're regional or state competition, they'll take one individual from 4 different utilities and form another team. Like I said, I met a team of YPs. I think Utah has done that several times where different YPs will come together and then they'll go to a local utility that has a team and work with them so they can learn the events and then go and compete at the state level. There's a lot of different instances where you just have rural communities where small utilities where, staffing is, they're not going to have 50 operators or 50 personnel or 35 personnel. And so they'll team up with another utility close by, probably typically they're within, an hour or so of each other. And they'll meet a couple times, and when it gets closer to the event, then they'll come together for a day or something like that and form teams. And it's really cool because then you get much more personal interactions with other utilities in your local area and talk about common hurdles and things that you have to deal with on a day to day. So yeah, I mean that's probably one of the coolest things about this community is just that collaboration and we see it quite a bit.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else? All right, you want to go through your facts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I did bring up the facts, frequently asked questions that we get, just pulling up some from the years of doing this and having people talk to us about this. We went over a lot kind of already. One thing I do want to touch on real quick is what equipment does my team need? Something that Lacey, Tim, and I really try to preach a lot of times is teams will think that they can't start without having everything already handled and taken care of, and I need to have every piece of equipment for the lab event and the maintenance event and the safety event. And that's nice if you can do that. That's amazing. But we try to express that shouldn't be a deterrent for teams, because we've seen teams time and time again, like Tim and Lacey have said multiple times, that some people come in and they've not even seen any of the equipment in real life and in person. I remember when I first started, I was talking to a team, I believe from Texas, and they were telling me that when they first started, they built wooden, like cardboard boxes for like the scale for the lab event. Instead of having an actual scale there, they built like the car out of cardboard. They built with the sliding doors and everything. They built a wooden platform and stuff, which we have done in the past too for the safety event. So that's something that we try to kind of knock home for people, is that equipment is not always necessary to start this. And starting in 1 or 2 events, like Lacey was saying earlier, the process and the lab event are great examples. You can do those kind of anywhere without really any major equipment. And starting with those 2 events and getting your feet wet and going to a competition and learning the other events through the process of that has been really beneficial. Lacey, Tim, if you guys have anything you kind of want to add to that, I might have missed.
No, I guess the only thing, and Tim can kind of probably help on this one, is WEFTEC does have like practice skids available, or at least they used to, for maintenance. And Tim, are they still doing that? Is Stephanie and Vaughn providing those at all?
Yeah, there's a couple that you could request throughout the year that could be shipped to your location to have for a period of time. Again, it's just another effort to give access to those. I mean, I think Pat touched on it. People look at this as a overwhelming investment, where I would say the majority of teams starting out do not start out with all the equipment. I think it might look like that to some people because the teams you see most often are the ones that have been around for a long time. And so just I think there's this idea that that's how everybody does it, and it's not. I would say that is the minority Even in South Carolina, that we're in a similar situation VWA is in, where there's not that many teams, and they've grown it to a ton of teams, and they'll share equipment. Um, they will rent one of these skids, or they'll ask the vendor to supply something, and then 3 different utilities will meet on a weekend or something like that to have access to it, or they'll ship it from one utility to the next over the course of a couple weeks. So there's that would be the majority of teams out there and how they handle it getting started. And then what you see a lot of teams do is once they start having some success, then you just start stepping more into that investment because you already have some of the stuff.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Let's see, something else we might not have touched on. How does my team go to a regional event? I get this a lot. A lot of people think that it's like a barrier to entry. Truth of the matter is, if you are working with wastewater treatment, you can register for a regional event. I know for VWA, it's as simple as just going to the Water Jam registration website and clicking on Ops Challenge and registering. It's not necessarily you have to send an email to someone and say, hey, I would like to start a team or anything like that. It's just making the team and kind of showing up and being a part of it, so long as you're working with wastewater. How does my team go to WEF? So WEF Tech is what we refer to as nationals. This is where the teams that have competed at their regional events and have either won or placed high enough for their MA to send them to WEF get to go. And last year, I want to say we had close to 60, if not more, teams, Tim. Yeah.
62.
62 teams last year. Granted, there's 3 different divisions, but 62 teams last year went to WEF, and that's where I kind of got the term of wastewater Olympics, because when you go there, it's just overwhelming. And right now for the state of Virginia, if we have 2 or less teams competing in the state, both of those teams will be given the opportunity to go to WEF, so long as they, have the financial ability to do that. Anything more than that, we will have to, for our state at least, have to do competition to see where those teams place. I know Texas is wild because they have something like 116 teams or something like that throughout the entire state of Texas. And they do a competition to see how many teams they can send for each division. So everywhere's kind of different, but that's how we do it for VWA currently.
Pat, can you expand on like right now? We used to have a lot more teams, and COVID and things. We're down right now. Our only regular team that's coming back is HRSD. We've had Prince William has said they're going to have a team in Virginia. At Water Jam, it will be a regional event. Well, we'll be bringing in other states, and it's kind of like a practice for some of them before nationals. And but explain kind of I guess like the whole process. I think it may be confusing for folks to understand what we're doing at Water Jam versus if we get a third team that has interest. A little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, of course. So little history. Back in the day, we used to have more than 2 teams, and we had upwards of, I think, 8 at one point in the state of Virginia. When I first started, we had 3. And so we would compete separately at our own in-state, just us competition. It was never really an invitational that I'm aware of, maybe years before me, but when I was competing, it wasn't. And it was just to see who got to go to WEF. And that happened for 1 year as me on the team. And then the year after that, the team that took third had dropped out. And so from there on, it was kind of just us and at the time the Blue Ridge Brawlers, which is what the team Lacey was a part of. During COVID, we sadly had a very big hiatus where both teams were not competing, and HRSD decided to come back after COVID, and Western Water is still trying to kind of make that happen for them. And because of that, we've never really had to have a in-state competition to determine what state team got to go to WEF because it was just HRSD. So with the possibility of having more teams now and us having an in-state competition, the timing of Water Jam is causing us to have a possibility for a in-state competition only for teams that are in the state. And so that's if there's more than 2 teams. We plan to have a competition, I believe July 1st timeframe, to determine what teams would go to WEF. And the reason being is Water Jam being 2 weeks before WEF, it would be very difficult for us to say we're going to have the winner at Water Jam and the second place team at Water Jam to go to WEF, because timing of trying to book hotels and travels and stuff, it would be almost impossible. So we decided to do that. So as of right now, we have a possibility of 2 teams. If there is more than that before June 1st, then we plan to have a separate in-state competition July 1st. If not, and there's only 2, then we are just having the Water Jam competition, and that is just for the state, but also invitationals. So it is a invitational regional event where we have invited teams from Maryland, South Carolina, North Carolina, New York, New Jersey, Florida, pretty much the entire East Coast, to say, hey, come to our event. You can compete. It's a good practice before WEFTEC. It'll get you some more reps in. So it provides competition, but it's not necessarily the event that determines who goes to WEF. So we have to do it a little bit differently than that. All other states do it differently than that because they're far enough out from WEFTEC, but because we're so close, we kind of have to do it that way. I know that might sound a little confusing, especially if you're not familiar with the whole onslaught of what Ops Challenge is. So if anyone has any questions specifically about what I explained there, I'll be more than happy to explain a little bit better. All right. What does my company gain from having a team? Tim, Lacey, I think you guys are more fit to answer this considering what you guys specifically have gained from this, and I'm still gaining, but you guys have a little bit more to speak on this if you want to take that one.
So we got 7 minutes left, so I could sit here and talk for an hour about this one. Sure, Tim could as well. You heard my videos. It's kind of a reoccurring theme for me. Everybody who's competed in Ops Challenge here at the West Virginia Water Authority, we are all in leadership positions now, and I have no doubt in my mind that is not a coincidence. But for being on the team, and being on that team, I really do think has helped to boost our careers. Just kept us involved. You know, you hear recruitment and retention all the time now. And what better way to recruit employees, to retain employees than having them involved in something like this? You know, they get outside the plant, they get to go to these, you know, state level, regional, national level events. The networking is just impressive. Just last week before last, I shot Tim a text and talking about sodium hypochlorite. Without Ops Challenge, I never would have had that avenue. I mean, hopefully I would like to have known Tim in another capacity, but Ops Challenge is what brought us together. And I can say that for a lot of other people in this industry. You know, the benefits are just beyond what I can really talk about in the next little bit. You know, the knowledge you gain in process control, the lab event. I mean, you just become more well-rounded as an employee. I mean, you learn so much about different, you know, treatment technologies. Pat alluded to that earlier. I mean, there's trickling filter questions, so MBBR. I mean, you know, chlorine dosing. I mean, it just opens you up to so many different, you know, facets of wastewater treatment. You know, at WEFTEC, there's a ton of vendors. Water Jam, there's going to be a lot of vendors. We have a bull shark screen now at our Influent, and our maintenance guy that was on the team made that contact at WEFTEC. And we brought the vendor in, and we bought a piece of equipment that has allowed us to, you know, improve our treatment here at this plant. again, I can stand on this soapbox all day long, so I won't steal all the glory here. Tim, if there's anything you want to add, feel free.
No, I mean, I think you're 100% right. I feel the same way. I started 18 years ago. I wasn't even going to stay in this working for HRSD. Got involved in Ops Challenge right away, and here I am 18 years later. I'm still involved in Ops Challenge because it literally took me from being an operator to a community member, which is what VWA is, right? It's a community of professionals in wastewater, and this is a great opportunity for some operators, maintenance operators, interceptor technicians that don't currently have a place in the community. And it's what really introduced me to being other committees and everything else within VWA. I mean, I started on the Ops Challenge committee, and so it's one thing just to come to work, show up to work, and like you said, recruitment, retention. When you become like you start to feel like you're a part of something, I think that's what it has done, and so you have a much higher engagement from your employee when they come back to work. They're energized. They feel like they're a part of something bigger. So I think that's what it gives back to your organization.
And one more thing I'll add here is, our contact information on here, write it down, take a screenshot, whatever you can. I mean, Pat, Tim, Kathy, and I, we're always available to help you guys out. And whatever we can do to provide information, we're there to help. We want to build this back up and get other folks within the Commonwealth the opportunity to be a part of Operations Challenge. So never hesitate to shoot us an email. No questions too small. We want to do what we can to help y'all out. So don't forget that.
Yep, absolutely. And let's see, Wayne has a shameless plug for Virginia Tech Short School. That HydroManage software is really cool stuff. It is used in Ops Challenge, but I've used it in other applications too. It's great stuff.
And I just want to share here too that I will be sending an email out after this to everyone. We recorded this, so once it's done processing, I'll send a link to the recording so everyone will have that and can share it with others. And I'll include the contact information here as well as the link to the Rocky Mountain site that has all the information on the different events and things like that as a resource for y'all. So feel free to reach out. We're really here to support, answer questions. Happy to kind of, we feel like this, supporting our operators, helping them kind of get more involved. And, what Tim said kind of gave me chills because it is a community and we want to find a place for everybody. And I'll turn it over to Pat. You want to close it out, Pat?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate your time and your interest in this, and hopefully we get to see you all at Water Jam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Pat.